Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Women Like Me Stories in Business. I'm your host, Julie Fairhurst, and today is going to be like a really super interesting conversation. And I think that we women have, we're going to get some insight because I think we have a problem with this. So hang in and listen. How many times have you allowed one no, just one no, to change the way you see yourself? Maybe someone rejected you. They rejected your idea, declined your offer, criticized your writing, overlooked you for an opportunity, or simply didn't recognize what you had to give. For many women, no does not feel like a response. It feels personal. We take it very personal. And it can be like proof that we're not good enough, that we're not experienced enough, that we're not young enough, confident enough, or that we should quietly stop trying. So, my guest today is here to help us change that belief because that's a belief we should not have. So, Andrea Waltz is a speaker, entrepreneur, and the co author of the best selling book, Go for No. Yes is the destination, no is how you get there. And just that title alone I think it can give us a shift. Her work has helped people change the way they think about failure, rejection, courage, and success. So, today we're going to talk about why rejection can feel so deeply personal, why women may stop asking before they truly have begun, and how we can stop allowing one closed door to convince us that the entire hallway is locked. Andrea, I am so pleased that you were here. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm so glad, Julie. We're going to have fun.
We are. Okay, let's start off with the very first question. Why does one small word, no, have the power to stop intellectual, talented, capable women from pursuing what we want?
Well, I think there's two things, and one is biology. It is literally built into our DNA to not get rejected. And so I should say to not get, yeah, to not want to get rejected and to see rejection as danger and as a bad thing. So that stops a lot of us. And then you layer onto that. So we're fighting biology, and then you layer onto that early childhood experiences, early experiences in our life where we learned that no really did mean never, or no was bad, or it was an embarrassing failure, or maybe it was humiliating. And so we didn't learn, and maybe we didn't have somebody around us to say, like, hey, don't give up, or so what, you got to know, keep going. So we learned that at an early age. And that combined with the biology now as adults kind of sets us up on this course where talented, smart, capable people hold themselves back and don't want to hear that no. So those are the two, that is what I found, that those are the really two big things.
I think what you said about when you said no is forever, we may have learned that as children, no meant forever. And then I thought to myself, well, no wonder we all are so terrified of getting no's. If that's in our DNA and we're thinking that.
Exactly. And it's interesting too because it's so like you see some people who no doesn't, like they don't quote unquote take no for an answer, right? They just go and go and go. And we all do start our lives as kids with a lot of tenacity. I mean, you know that, right? We all know like kids are very tenacious and they are willing if they want a piece of candy from the mom or whatever. I mean, they will ask and ask and ask until forever. But at some point, that natural sense of tenacity does get drummed out of us. And so for some people, it might be five, for other people, it might be eight, and for maybe somebody else, it might be 12. But when you become more self-aware, where you become more aware that, oh, people are looking at me, people are judging me, no means failure. And so this is kind of embarrassing. And what seemed okay at one point, like I'm just going to ask and I'm going to hear no and I'm going to be willing to fail, suddenly doesn't seem all that smart, suddenly seems a little dangerous and a little unsafe. And so there we go.
Yeah. So when you first began sharing this idea, did you immediately understand it, or did you have to hear a few no's about the very concept of going for no?
So I learned this idea from my husband, who's also my business partner, and he told me a story. about a time where he was selling suits for a living. And this was kind of his origin story for him learning this whole go for no philosophy. And by the way, like, go for no is a sales strategy that has been in the sales world basically forever, right? It's like
Yes.
there's a sales training company out there called Sandler Sales Systems, and they teach people like, go for the no, don't be afraid of hearing no. We've just kind of packaged it in a different way. So how my husband kind of learned it was he was selling suits for a living. The district manager watched him have this fantastic sale and then asked him, what did that customer say no to? And my husband Richard said, that customer didn't say no to anything. Everything I laid in front of that man, he purchased. Like, this guy was just saying yes to everything. And then his district manager said, then how did you know he was done? Which was kind of like the light bulb moment of, how did I know he was done? And the answer was, the guy never said no. There was no way to know he was done, except my husband Richard was the one who ended the sale. And it was that day that the district manager said, I watched you sell. You're not half bad, but your fear of the word no is going to kill you. If you can just learn to get over that, you could be great. And so, Julie, when he told me that story, my journey of learning about asking had actually already begun a few years earlier. I was in a bookstore and I stumbled upon a book. It was, I remember, right at the cash register, um, on display. It was had just come out and it was called The Aladdin Factor. And it was how to get everything in life that you want. And I was like, I was a disgruntled just college student working and going to school. And I saw that and I was like, hey, I want to know how to get everything I want in life. What is this? And it turned out the Aladdin Factor is all about asking. And it's about who to ask and when to ask and where to ask and how to ask and what do you do when you get a no and what should you think. And I love that book. I've read it so many times since then. It's very simple. It's all about asking. And so I had this fascination with asking, but I wasn't a good asker. I didn't like to hear no. I took no personally. So I would always just say no to myself. And then when I learned this go for no strategy, I was like, oh, I love this. Not only do I desperately need this, but I want to share this with other people.
Yeah. Well, I think men seem to, for some reason, most men, or not, I shouldn't say most, but the men I've experienced, when they hear the word no, they just carry on. We as women, sometimes we hear the word no and it can crush us. It can stop us in our tracks. So, how can we separate our self worth from the response that we receive?
This is something that I've been working on for years because I took it personally. Like, you're so right. I think not most, many women do. I think it's just we're raised that way, where we are more sensitive and we take it as a referendum on our value. And I don't know that men do that. I think men are just able to kind of compartmentalize and say, okay, I got a note of this. They're more goal driven. I mean, you see it even with shopping. Like, women like to just go and explore and look around. We don't even have to have a mission. And men
Yeah.
are like, nope, I'm going to go into the store. I'm goal driven. Here's what I need to get. And I'm going to get the hell out, right?
Yeah.
So, um, and so as a result, I think when they get a no, it's like, okay, that's just an obstacle that I need to go around. We are like, oh, what does this mean? What does this mean about me? What does this mean about, what does this say about my future? So we do a lot more interpretation, I think. So that's some of the stuff that I've seen. And so in terms of taking it personally, I'm going to reference another book, which was an amazing transformation for me. And it's a book called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And one of the four agreements is don't take stuff personally. It was just don't take anything personally. And
Yeah.
one of the cool things he talks about in that book is that really you can't take anything personally. So it's like, if you don't want to take the bad stuff personally, you also can't take the good stuff personally. And it's very freeing when you get that, because what you learn is that everything that somebody tells you is their own perception. So you could say, gee, Andrea, I love your hair, but hate your sweater, or I love your sweater, but hate your hair. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Do I believe the good thing? Do I believe the bad thing? Or maybe I don't believe anything. And I say, you know what? That's her belief system, opinions, where she's coming from, how she was raised, and it doesn't. And so here's my mantra, Julie, when
Yeah.
this is what I tell people is it's not about you even when it's about you. It's always about the other person and where they're coming from. And when you practice telling yourself that mantra and you get it and you internalize it, it is freeing.
Mm. I heard a quote once that has stuck with me, and it says, while you're sitting over here worrying about what everybody's thinking about you, they're sitting over there worrying about what you're thinking about them. So
That's a great quote. I haven't heard that, but I love that.
yeah, yeah, it makes complete sense. Yeah, we're all over here getting all, and the other thing too is that it's our perception is not necessarily our reality.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is very true. You're right. Yeah. And we're very good storytellers, all of us, right?
Yes.
We make up stuff in our head about what somebody is thinking, and that actually is another aspect of go for no as well.
Yeah. So you encourage people to set no goals. How does that work? And why can aiming for rejection lead to more success?
So for the salespeople, business women, entrepreneurs listening to this really gets to the heart of implementing a strategy like Go for No. And it's funny because I call it a strategy because I like to I like to give people tactical advice, but also it's a philosophy. Like the philosophy is basically yes is the destination, no is how you get there. If you want more
Mhm.
yeses in your life, in your business, you need to hear no more often. Practical application of this is no goals. And that doesn't mean having no goals. It means literally setting a goal for the number of no's you are willing to hear. So you may have a goal of some kind, and you might say, well, how many yeses does it take to get there? But a more interesting question is, how many no's am I willing to hear on the path to that? So if I were working with you and I would say, Julie, you need to get more guests for your podcast. But you want to have really good guests, best-selling authors. You want to have, um, amazing people with huge followings, right? And so I would say, well, here's what you do. Instead of trying to ask people who you know will tell you yes, go out tomorrow and ask three people. Try to get three no's to your podcast, to coming on your podcast. And in that process, you'll probably get the yeses that you want as well. So when you get that one yes, maybe you had a goal of just getting that one yes, but you said instead I'm going to twist it around. I'm going to try to get three no's. I'm going to go big. I'm going to make big asks. And when you get those no's, you celebrate. But also what happens is in that process, you don't slow yourself down when you get that one yes. So it does several
Mhm.
things. It is very behavior oriented. In other words, when you set a goal to hear a no, the question is, okay, what does that mean? What do you have to do? It means you have to ask. It means you have to figure out what's my offer, what's my ask, where is that person, how do I reach them? and and so it's the tactical implementation of getting to a yes, instead of saying, I need to get a yes, how do I do that, how do I convince them, how do I persuade, you know
Ah,
it comes at it from a very different energy. So it's almost like kind of gamifying asks, and that I think makes it fun. It keeps people more involved. And ultimately, if you believe that getting a yes requires you to hear more no's, and we say that it does, then it makes sense that you would want to go for no. You would want to now,
mm,
and I have to just add one caveat here. This doesn't mean you're going to do a bad job. This doesn't mean you should be wishing, praying, hoping, oh, I hope I get a no. No, of course not. That would be crazy, right? You want a yes. And
yes.
I have said over the years, like, it's not that you can't have yes energy. It's not that you don't want to be enthusiastic. It's not like you walk into a conversation thinking like, oh, I'm just going to fail. I'm going to lose this. I'm going to get a no. No, not at all. But acceptance is a lot different. Accept is a lot different than expect, right? And so
Ah,
we want to be okay with acceptance, but you don't have to expect, if that makes sense.
yes, it does. It does. Yeah. Well, what would a realistic no goal be for a woman who's just beginning to sell her book, her coaching services, or her business offer?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So I have two things. One is sometimes you can reverse engineer something. So sometimes you can say, like, gosh, I have a big goal of getting 10 coaching clients this year. I'm going to need to get that offer in front of 1,000 people. And so you can kind of reverse engineer and say,
Yeah.
how do I do that? What does that look like? Is it me taking 1,000 meetings this year, booking 1,000 appointments? So you kind of work backwards. On the flip side, that sounds a little crazy. So on the flip side, one fun thing I like to do is just especially when you're beginning and you're like, I just practice this. Put it into practice like any practice you have in your business. And that is, I'm going to try to get one no today to something. And it can be anything. It can be anything related to your goals. So it could be, but you got to step out of your comfort zone. Like it can't always be the same kind of easy
Yes.
thing. But it could be like, you know what? I've been meaning to ask this person for a referral. I've been meaning to ask this
Mm.
person for a review of my book and I'm stalling, or I've got these 10 people I should email and ask them if they'd be willing to write me a LinkedIn recommendation. And I haven't done it because I'm giving myself the no, I'm coming up with all the excuses, right? And so you say, I'm just going to try for one today. And what I see happens with everyone, men and women, is they realize how actually hard it is to get a no. So they think like she says, I'm going to go for that one ask for the review or the testimonial. And she sends an email or makes a call or sends a text, doesn't matter, technology, whatever.
Yeah.
And instead of getting the no, gets the yes, but she still needs to get that no. So now it's like, okay, now I need
Mm.
to ask someone else. And at the end of the day, you realize that it's actually kind of hard to get a no. And what happened was instead of saying no to yourself, you were open and receptive to getting that no, but it feels so good to get into action because you finally say, I'm just going to do it. And even if I get a no, I'll be happy and proud that I did it.
I just love what you just said. It gets you into action because we sit in our fear, especially if we're afraid of rejection and a no is, some of us take it as rejection. So that is just such a great big fear that stops us in our tracks. But I fully believe that if we want something, we have to take action. We have to get the energy flowing. We have to let the universe know, yeah, we're working towards this. We want it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so many people, and those no's are stopping them. So many people are not taking that action that they need to take because they're stuck in that fear.
Yeah, and I very much believe in what you just said. The universe really responds to action. And so I love what you said too. When you're sitting in your fear, you're thinking about fear. And some people might say, well, you're talking about going for no, and I don't want no, I want yes. No, it's really go for action. It's
Yeah,
going for something and making the ask despite the fact that you may get a no or maybe silence. That
yeah,
happens a lot too.
yeah,
But you may not get that response that you're looking for. So the action is what ignites the universe. And then what you see is the more you do it and the more results that you get, your confidence starts to change because you realize, you know what? This is not as big a deal as I was
yeah.
making it out to be. I was sitting there in my fear. I was coming up with stories, and now I'm taking action. And the more action you take, the more action you're willing to take.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Well, what do you say to a woman who tells herself, I don't want to bother people?
Yeah. Um, a couple things. So the first thing is that this is where we have to work on self-worth, self-esteem, self-love. And it's it's I think it's so much easier to play it safe and to say, yeah, I don't want to bother this person. And so you say no to yourself. And I think too many women give themselves no's all the time for all different reasons. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we've got to get better at letting people. I think sometimes maybe I'm speaking for myself, but some people listening to this may identify with this, is you're so used to being strong and you don't want to ask for help and you don't want to look weak perhaps, or you don't want to look like you're I have had women tell me many times, especially from a sales standpoint, I don't want to look like I'm begging. Like if I follow up with somebody, I'm going to look like I'm begging. And so we've got to
Mhm.
allow people to sometimes be kind of a hero or a helper in our lives. And that's okay. And that there's absolutely nothing wrong with asking somebody for a referral, for a review, for the whatever it is, for the
Yeah.
sale. There's nothing wrong with that. And this is something again that the men do well. And we've got to take, I think, a lesson from that, in that we deserve it. If you've done a good job, you deserve to make the ask. And it's much better to get the no than to just sit there and wonder if it would have gone through if had you asked.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how should someone respond to a not right now without sounding, as you said, desperate or disappearing forever?
Right. That's such a great question. So, um, if you get a not right now, the first response that you have to work on is your internal response. So it's working on that knee jerk kind of internal, what are you saying to yourself? And then also your outward response. So the first thing is, when you get that internal, oh, not right now, don't all of a sudden start making up a story about how you bothered them and they don't want to do it and you're embarrassed now and what do they think of you and all of that. You got to just shut the monkeys off for a second and instead just accept that. And like think of, in your mind, think about rewarding yourself, just like your own personal internal reward of, oh, but I asked, so that was the good thing. I did ask and I got a not right, so I got a response, which is amazing because it's hard to get responses these days. And then you have to be prepared with your next question. So you have two things you can ask basically. And one is, um it's kind of a, is this a no? Well, in your case, it was a not right now, right? So the
Yes.
very first question that you should ask is, great, when would be a better time for me to reach out to you? And you could ask that and try to get an answer, or you can just assumptive, and you can just go assumptive by saying, oh, totally understand. You know what? Let's do this. I'll I'll try reaching back out to you in a couple months and see if the timing's better, or see if anything's changed. And you just assumption it. And if that's not acceptable to them, they'll probably say, oh, no, that's not going to work either. And then they'll tell you a better date. But that preparation goes a long way. And it doesn't have to be complicated, doesn't have to be a long, drawn out story or explanation. It's just coming right back with a question. What's a better time for you? Or how about this? Let me do this. I'll text you. I'll call you back. Some women that I buy, or I'm thinking of a particular woman who I buy my skincare from, and she, from a direct sales company, and I've worked with her for years, and she is really good about that. I mean, whenever it's about time, she's always very assumptive. She goes like, well, how about this? I will text you in December and then we'll schedule a meeting so we can have our appointment. I mean, and she just, it's so fast. It's so natural.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what would you say to a woman who has received so many disappointments that she just no longer trusts herself to try
Oh
again?
man. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so a couple of things on that. Knows our data. And if you're getting a ton of rejection on something, sometimes it helps to look at that and say, all right, where is it happening exactly? And and what do I think is real here? And so to your question, when I hear that, I immediately start wanting to dig, because the first red flag that goes up for me on that, Julie, is most people don't have enough data. They think they're getting a ton of setbacks. They think they're hearing a ton of no's, and it's not as much as they think, right? They're as many people as they think have said no to the offer haven't really seen it. It's like they put up one landing page and a few people visited, or they feel like they've sent out a zillion emails, or they've had a ton of appointments. And it's like, so I would first say, make sure that the story that you're telling yourself is true, that you actually have the data to back that up. And if you have the data, if you're like, yes, literally, I'm not exaggerating, it's a ton of rejections, then we need to dig into it and say, all right, so the no is data. So how can we change this? What can we do to the offer? But I've coached, and I remember coaching one woman who was a great, super sweet. I loved her, salesperson, outbound salesperson. She was making calls, and she would go back and she would tell me, she's like, Andrew, she goes, I can't help it. She goes, I change the way I make my offer on every call, because she's like, I just, something happens and I just want to test it. I want to try it differently. So what was happening was we were never getting enough information to know if what she was saying and how she was making her approaches was working. If something worked, it felt lucky. And then she might try that for a couple more times. And then if she got a no, or if it didn't work out, then she'd try something else that felt luckier or better, or, whatever. And so you've got to have the data. Now, I will say this as well. Um, it also sometimes helps if we don't, I don't want to be one of these toxic positivity people where it's like, hey, you just buck up and you suck it up and it's going to be rough and you're just going
Yeah.
to have to roll with it. Sometimes the rejection is real. It hurts. It's painful. You've got to lay in bed and cry. And then you go like, okay, let me figure this out. And there are ways that I think it's helpful to change your state. It is helpful to listen to positive things, to listen to podcasts like yours, Julie, where you're talking about things that you can do, things that are helpful, and to not isolate, to not think, don't think alone. Think with a group of people who also maybe do what you do, who you aspire to do what they do, and who can kind of leave you some breadcrumbs. Because if you're just in your own silo and you are getting nothing but setbacks and just feels like nothing's working, get out of that shell so that you're not just ruminating. And because you can't sometimes think outside the box, you got to get ideas from different people, you got to get exposed to different things, and have people also look at what you're doing and go like, yeah, this is good, keep going, or you know what, here, I would change this. So again, I go back to asking for help.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think for women, we networking groups are fabulous. I belong to a couple of them, and they're great because you get to run things past them if something's not working, or you get to share your wins, and you get to hear other people's issues and struggles, and you can learn from that. But you can't do that sitting at home alone pouting because it's tough out there.
It is. It is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And these days with technology, there's absolutely no reason why
yes.
on any given Thursday afternoon, if you are just not feeling great, there's so many places to go and groups to be a part of, whether it's Facebook business groups
Yeah,
online, whether it's networking in person, or mastermind type groups, or podcast. Like there's just so much to absorb. So you're
yeah,
never stuck just by yourself.
yeah, yeah. Gone are the days where I'd have to sneak into the car and put Tony Robbins in the CD player as I drove to the grocery store or drove to my next appointment.
Seriously.
Yeah,
Yes,
we have
exactly.
it all around us.
Yeah.
I want to just shift us a little bit because I deal with a lot of writers with my program. And so I would like to ask you a few things about that. How can writers learn to see silence, low sales, or declined submissions as information rather than the final verdict?
That is hard, and you have to, as a writer, and I've published fiction and nonfiction,
Uh,
and yeah, and fiction is, well, they both could be challenging. You've got to hold on to every positive comment you possibly can, and uh, instead of letting that silence be kind of the judge, if you will, because there's a lot of silence out there, and you wonder, like, are people reading me? What are they thinking? What's going on? You is so many more irons in the fire, getting out there so much more. It's in many ways, and this is a go for no marketing idea. It's quantity. I think sometimes with writers, because we tend to just want to do our work, and we just love the work, and the marketing part is so tedious
yes.
and painful, and it's like you've got to 5x your effort beyond what you think you're doing. Is It's just usually not enough, and that
Yeah.
goes for sales too. But
Yeah.
even with marketing, it's doing more and getting yourself out there, because the more you do that, the less silence you'll have. But if you feel really good about what you're putting out, um, sometimes you just have to be okay in that silence and just stay persistent and move through it, because it's just hard to get attention these days, and that's just how it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. I belong to some writers groups on social media, and people are like, I've had my book up for a year and I haven't sold one copy, and oh my goodness. But what they don't think about maybe or comprehend is that, well, Amazon has millions of books. So imagine that your buyer walks into a bookstore, a book like the largest bookstore in the world. They got a million books in there. How are they going to find your book? And that's
Yeah.
what I think they have to think about. And I agree. It's the marketing. We have to, you have that. You have to push it, push it, push it. Think about how you sit and watch TV, and how often you see, I don't know what commercial, McDonald's or whatever, some commercial on there. It's in your face all the time. And and
Yes.
and we're and we shouldn't be any different.
Exactly. And I'm glad you actually brought that up. So I've learned some really hard lessons, especially with fiction. We changed our book cover two times. We started with one cover, and we did exactly the wrong thing, like made every mistake humanly possible, got the wrong cover, didn't really fit the audience, was not professional. And so and also we were writing short, more episodic type fiction, and then all the readers complained, oh, it was too short, it ended too early. So again, we took that data
Ah,
and we were like, okay, so those are good no's. Let's take it. We changed it. We took 3 episodes, we made it into a book. We ended up picking a cover that we loved. It was super creepy. It was really cool. It was a skull face made of spiders, because the series was called Onyx Web. And we thought, this is it. Like, this is perfect. And then the cover really divided people, because people were like, this cover doesn't match some of what's inside the book. Like, this book is not
ah,
just horror. There's a little romance, there's a lot of supernatural and
yeah.
suspense and all of these different things. So then finally, we had worked so hard, spent hundreds of hours, thousands of dollars. And finally, we said, you know what? We need to repackage this again. And also, we need to change our name from our name to a pen name. So we did that. So
Ah,
literally, Julie, like, you have to, when you're author and you are putting a book out, I don't care if it's fiction or nonfiction, you have to
yeah,
fall in love with failure, because you just make mistake after mistake. That is
yeah.
why it is so essential to be in the groups, because you learn from people about how to not make these mistakes. But seriously, if there's any writer who thinks that she has made a mistake or two, no, I win. I have made literally every mistake humanly possible.
Oh, I love that. Well, Andrea, how can people find you and how do you help people?
So our business is mainly, well, it has been for a long time speaking, but recently we're developing something we're calling the Go for No Rejection training system, which I am so excited about. It comes out in just a
Ah,
couple months. Yeah. Whole system. And part of that system is you get, you get training, of course, which is online, which is something that you can go through, but the other thing you get is 1 year of Go for No live Go for No challenges with me, which is a coaching
ah,
component, which is going to be really, really cool. But what I would encourage people to do is, one, go get the book Go for No. It's a short 80-page fable, and it's about a guy who wakes up one morning in a house that belongs to a wildly successful future version of him, 10 years in the future. So there's a little supernatural like mystery going on. And he has to figure out from this future version of him, like, how are you so successful? So, I mean, if you could imagine getting to
ooh,
meet you 10
yeah,
years from now, and she is super successful, she lives in a beautiful house, she's got all, everything's great. And you would say, like, what the heck did you do? I have to know, right? So that's
yeah.
the premise of the book. And it's, again, like I said, short, easy, fun read, 80 pages that teaches this whole Go for No
I
mindset.
love that. Oh, that's just, it's almost like those meditations that you do where you're going to find your future self, right? And you can
Yes.
ask your future self
Yes,
questions. I love that. This sounds like
exactly.
and it sounds like
Exactly.
not only a meaningful, but fun.
It's fun. Yeah. And we've had people say to us who say, I am not a reader, but I could read your book because it was a story,
Yeah.
and the lessons are kind of embedded. So I would really encourage people to start there, and then they can come to goforno.com and take our quiz, which kind of measures how you think and feel about failure, rejection, and
Yeah.
success. And that's a great place to start as well.
Wow. Well, I will have all of Andrea's not her show notes. I will have all of her information in the show notes for you, so you don't have to struggle to try to find her. So you can go in there, and I would, yeah, if she's got a quiz, that sounds amazing. But the book also sounds great, and 80 pages, anybody can get through 80 pages. Yeah. Yeah. I love these people like, my book is 600 pages. I'm like, I think I've only ever read one book that big. It was, and I've read it 3 times, The Mists of Avalon. Love
Oh,
that. Love it. But yeah, those are big books. Like you look at them
yeah.
and it's daunting, but 80 pages, you can get through that in a day.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
completely. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. For sure. So, what opportunity might be waiting for some of us on the other side of no we are currently trying to avoid?
I thought you were wrapping up. I'm so sorry.
That's
I was
okay.
just
That's
zoning out.
okay.
Yeah. Can you ask me that again?
Sure, I can. So I'm wondering about what fantastic things are waiting for us on the other side of no that we're afraid of.
Love that. Yeah, the way you said that, I was like, "Oh, I love how she's wrapping up the show with that final question." Like it's just such a good we're going to leave people wondering what great things are waiting for them. So, geez, Julie, you're gonna have to use that going forward. It's kind of a good wrap up.
Yeah.
Gosh, see, that's the thing though, is that's why I
Yeah.
love that question, is because you don't know, right?
Yeah.
There's so much that is behind a no, and because we're often too busy saying no to ourselves, making assumptions about why we shouldn't ask, not wanting to bother people, and putting other people's goals and dreams kind of ahead of ours. And believe
Yeah.
me, like all this stuff that I'm saying that we quote to, I do, like I've done,
Yeah.
because I was raised as being kind of like seen as, I want to be a nice girl and pleasing and friendly and easy to get along with, and all the things that I think we're taught as women. Like, this is how you show up. And that's what I have kind of lived into. And what I've learned is you don't have to get rid of that to ask. You don't have to you don't all of a sudden have to become, you're a nice person, but now you're a mean person because you're willing to ask. You're a good girl and a friendly girl and easy to get along with woman. But you also can't, no, those, it all can go together. And it's just taken me a long time to learn that. And that's a gift that I've been given by teaching this information and by teaching the power of go for no.
Wow. Fabulous. Just such good information, Andrea. And there's so many. I mean, I think about the networking groups that I'm in, and those ladies are, they've got coaching programs, they've got wellness programs, they have authors, and they struggle. They struggle with the no, and they struggle with the ask. But you have to. If you don't ask, people don't know what you want.
That's right. That's right. And it also, like, one of the fun things we do in our Go for No challenge is we also teach people, like, you need to do this in your personal life, so it's not just business stuff. And it's funny
Yes.
how sometimes, like, especially married women who want their husbands to read their minds, it's like, I don't want to have to ask you to take me to Italian food. I want you to know that I want to go out to this place. It's my favorite place. And no, like, so I always say, practice this in your personal life, practice asking your kids, your parents,
Yeah.
your spouse, so that you just get in the habit of figuring out what is it I want, and practice that ask, and learning to ask and not feeling like you are impinging upon somebody, being demanding, all the things that we've talked about. I think the more you do it, the more you put it into practice, the better you get at asking.
Yeah. Well, that is great to end with. I love that. So start on your husband, ladies, or your spouse, or those darn kids of yours, and then you'll be teaching them how to teach how to treat you as well, because they will begin to know. Because you're right, none of us are mind readers. Yeah, and for us sitting there going, well, I can't believe that they didn't even ask me if I was interested or if I wanted to go. Well, maybe you should say, I'd love to go. Can I come?
That's right. Can I come? Exactly. Yes. It's amazing
Yeah.
what can happen. You actually start getting what you want, which is a circle back to the Aladdin factor. Ask for what you want.
Well, ask for what you want. Yeah. Well, Andrea, thank you so much for doing this and being so willing to share all your knowledge. Sales is it's a tough one for a lot of people, and especially women. And it's great to get those tangible things that we can do, and also to understand that no is not personal. It's just no, for whatever reason. Just move on to the next one. As and I think the more you do it, you get that tougher skin, right? And I think we definitely need tougher skin. Yeah. Yeah. So, well, thank you again, Andrea. I appreciate it. So remember, everyone, Andrea's information is in the show notes. Grab her book. It's only 80 pages, and it sounds like you're going to learn a lot from that. And thank you all for being here on this episode of Women Like Me, Stories in Business. And we'll see you next time, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.